Yes.
All right. 1935. Lions win their first championship. The Red Wings take their first Stanley Cup. The Detroit Tigers win their first World Series. Joe Louis is on the rise, and 30 other champions, all comprising the City of Champions in 1935. This is the City of Champions, the podcast. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Charles Avison.
And Charles, it took me 100 episodes, but I finally staged and lit the studio.
Yes, and I put in the request for the Imperial March. It's always been on my list of things to do in my life, to open a show with the Imperial March song, and this is just the perfect backdrop from which to do it with. Just cross it off my bucket list. Thank you, Jamie Flanagan. And I will tell you all out there that it was not an easy thing to get Jamie to play that song.
Well, because it might have knocked us off of YouTube.
It might have.
I
understand.
Knocked us off Facebook.
I understand.
I muted on YouTube already, but hey,
I understand the concerns.
It's
but
the audio podcast.
That song, that is the hype song, man. I love it. And look at the backdrop we got. Dude, we are in the Death Star currently.
Yeah, it's a Podcast Your Voice studio. So
don't say, you just ruined the whole.
Oh, we're on the Death Star.
I was gonna say we were broadcasting from the Death Star, and Jamie just ruined everything. We're not
that look.
We're in Southfield in Detroit.
You like that?
We're currently on board the Death Star, broadcasting you City of Champions show. That's why I was trying to sell that concept, that idea.
It's sold. So if anybody's listening to the audio podcast, another one of the episodes worth a jump over to the video to see the different.
Totally,
100%
worth it. This is awesome.
But so it's all about the 1935 year. I had something. Hang on one second. Phil, who are we going to talk about today?
What am I going to do? Carry the show by myself, Jamie? What am I going to do? We're talking about Bill Bonthron today.
And that's it. That's all you got.
Let's wrap the show. No, this I'm totally in love with this backdrop. I'm sorry. I'm just savoring the ambiance.
Enamored with it.
Yeah, dude, I'm sitting like in the Imperial throne room right now.
All right. So lots of sporty stuff in Detroit still, right? Still we got
there's tons of stuff.
The Lions still exist, the Tigers still exist, the Red Wings still exist. And that it's been a long time. I mean, because prior to 1935, it was like
a state of flux.
How many different names do the Red Wings have in the 5 years before? They had like 4 different names.
This is the Red Wings were the third team name.
And then
and they'd only been the Red Wings since 1932.
The Lions, the professional football team failed 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah, well, depending on how you want to look at it, it was 3 or 4 different times.
And they failed launching a professional football team here.
The NFL failed 3 times.
Some people will argue they've still failed, but yet we've had the same team since 1934.
Detroit's the only city that hasn't had one of the big 3 sports, baseball, football, hockey, that has had one of their major teams leave the city or change their names.
Right.
And so I heard one time somebody said, "Oh, what about Chicago?" And I was like, "Yeah, Chicago Cardinals, dude. They've relocated. Now they're in Arizona." So they and you could say, well, they still have the Cubs, the White Sox, all their anchor teams. You could make that case too. I'm not trying to sit here and go into technicalities. I'm saying when you're talking about, if you look at Detroit before 1935,
right,
the sports situation was in a massive state of flux. There was as you just said, the Red Wings changed their names 3 times in 5 years. They were only the Red Wings since 1932. The Lions only came into the city in 1934.
Right.
The Tigers were a second-class team. They'd never won a World Series.
Since 1935,
it's been a picture of stability.
Been entrenched. And the Pistons have come along.
Yes.
I could live without the turquoise uniforms, but they didn't change their name.
I know the teal jerseys or whatever it is. That was like a low point in there.
I could have lived without those, but besides that,
it's been a good run. I mean,
now in the last handful of years, we've had our soccer team, our football team, the DCFC, our boys in maroon.
Well, I'm waiting for at some point. I mean, from what I understand, the fandom for that is intense, and it's like I'm wondering when they're going to be able to be able to take the next step up, because I mean their fan interest is huge.
A couple of people have asked us to broadcast from a DCFC.
I've never been to a game. It might be worth watching. Sure.
It is, and we can talk to the owners. It's a quagmire of just horseshit of why, you know, the whole major league team and not and why and it shouldn't and is it
Yeah.
and whatever. But I mean, Detroit is still really rocking and rolling with the thing. The Gold Cup, the hydroplane races ran, and it was the longest running cup, longest running trophy in the world for the longest time, and it got derailed like right before COVID
screwed it up.
Yeah, and so that Gold Cup, the Gold Cup actually has lost its reign.
They had I don't know if it was. I remember friends of mine went to the Red Bull Air races down there too.
Those were cool. So we still have boat races that go on, and we still have just amazing golf that comes.
Yeah, they have the Rocket Mortgage Golf. There's pro Rocket Mortgage Classic. I think
very cool. Very cool.
Every once in a while, the U.S. Open comes here and that.
The Grand Prix is back.
Grand Prix is on Belle Isle.
It's been running for years and years. Belle Isle. It was back in the city streets this year. This is the first year in 13. This is the first year in 13 years.
Huh?
It went right by your apartment.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't.
That's how oblivious I am. I'm so busy.
Is that what that fence was? I thought they were just paving the street.
That's what I'm saying. Like all kinds of weird stuff happens. I guess I don't even pay attention.
So I'm down at the Grand Prix. Right. I paid way too much money to go sit in the hot beating sun on way too hot of little bleachers, but regardless, it was fun. It was really fun to see. We're in Crash Corner, turn number 3, right in front of Cobo Hall or whatever you want to call it. But it was a great little Crash Corner. They just smashed every time they came through. We're like, yeah, why do you go? You go watch them crash. That's why.
Jeez, yeah.
You know, it's if they all go without.
You don't go
crash.
for the sportsmanship and watch the how they put new tires on
cockroach races.
No,
you only go to see the cockroaches crash.
Jeez.
So, but there, you know, the Hart Plaza was filled with all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah. We have so many things. Crossing over to the Man Cave Happy Hour, we're going to do an episode with Sticks, which is STX, which is a mobile cigar bar. It's this really macked out RV with a humidor, walk-in humidor in it, and then a lounge area, and they set up lounge furniture outside of it, and you can rent it for your private party or a bachelor party, or they set up at fairs and things, or you can, if you're having some sort of church event, you could have it at your church, at the church thing. You can have the cigar lounge at the church. We're going to do an episode with Sticks coming up soon, and people can come out and join us with the Man Cave Happy Hour. So they were down there. Sticks was down there, and then all these other things at Hart Plaza. And one of the things was the Hockey Town hockey experience. And there are all these goofy little hockey games and stuff, and you can win a little terror towel or whatever.
Yeah,
a little Red Wing swag here and there. You could win water bottles and what have you. But they had people doing autographs throughout.
Yeah, I was wondering what this is, and you're holding in your hand. I was like, when are you building up towards showing me what this is? You got some show and tell?
Yeah. And so they were like, Red Wings alumni signing autographs, and I go over. I was like, oh crap, that's DeKaiser. That's Danny DeKaiser.
Yeah,
Danny DeKaiser. So Danny DeKaiser was down there signing autographs.
That's pretty sweet
at the Grand Prix. It was pretty cool. And I'm like, hey, Danny, how you doing? He's like, all right.
Did he say like to my best friend Jamie?
He did.
Did he really?
He did.
What does it sign? What does it say?
No, it just says Danny.
Come on, you got to get it personalized.
Number 65.
He didn't personalize it for you?
And then no. And then
you should have had him say it to the best person I know, or something like that.
Right.
To the greatest guy I know, Jamie.
And then I go, hey, Danny, I go, do you know when the Wings won their first Stanley Cup? And he was like, I don't know, was it like 53 or something? I'm like, no, Daniel, it was not.
Did you give him a card for the show?
It was 1935.
Did you give him a card for because he went to Western too? He's a Michigan guy.
I gave him the card for the show.
Did you really?
I gave him a sticker and a button. Yeah,
good. No,
I gave him a sticker.
If he ever wants to come on the show and talk about it, man, he's welcome on.
So it was Danny didn't know, and then I said, and I go, that's cool. But the Tigers won their first World Series that year, and the Lions won their first championship that year.
Yeah,
all 3 in 1 year.
Yeah,
I go, and we do a podcast all about it. I go, you should listen to it.
Yeah,
I go, but thanks for the autograph. You have a great day.
You should have had him put on there. You should have had him put on there.
He's very cool, Danny DeKaiser. He's a Michigan boy.
Next time you get in that situation, be like, to my best friend and best person I know, Jamie Flanagan.
Yeah,
put it on there.
Nah.
I had I had an autograph story, and it was with Lou Whitaker, who was my favorite player he was my favorite player as a child, and then my favorite player is like yes, and as a teenager, my favorite player was Travis Fryman.
Okay,
but as a child, my favorite player was Lou Whitaker.
I like Lance Parrish.
Yeah, he's a solid choice
like
for
Lance.
a favorite. Yeah, he was good. He felt yeah. I mean, I liked him too, but my favorite was Lou. You know what I mean? It's like I liked all those guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Kurt Gibson and then of course, you know.
So,
but I was about to tell a story.
Oh,
You just cut me off.
Sweet Lou.
Sure.
All right.
So, anyways, so it was my 30th birthday. And I wanted, and I was like,
you hired Sweet Lou to come out of a cake for
no,
you.
no, not. I wish. Okay, no. It was I had no idea at that time, but my cousin Brandon took me to go get Lou Whitaker's autograph at Gibraltar Trade Center.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I had no idea that his job that day was to distract me so that they could set up a surprise party for me at this little place or whatever, this little hotel or whatever. And they had in my cake was the cover of my first book.
Oh,
my mom was a cake decorator, and she decorated a cake with my book cover on. I hadn't finished putting the first book out yet.
Moms
it was like
about
the best.
Oh yeah,
And
it was
so
on the way.
it was his job, Brandon's job, to distract me. And when he found out, I was already talking about going to get this thing because Lou Whitaker was there, right?
Perfect way to take you and get you out of the way for a
little
bit.
I got Lou Whitaker. So when I went to go get Lou Whitaker's autograph, I was like, man, Lou, you're my favorite when I was a kid, And he was like, he's like, thanks. I go, hey, can you write? Because it's my 30th birthday today, Lou.
Yeah,
today. Could you write on the when you sign it? Could you say happy birthday, Charles, Lou?
Yeah.
I said, can you say happy birthday on the signature for me? And he goes, and he just signed it. Best wishes, Lou. And I was like, come on, Lou. What the hell is this, man?
He's on a roll. That muscle memory.
Yeah, but I was like, come on, man. It's my 30th birthday today, dude.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, and so I was like, you know what? Screw you, Lou. I was kind of pissed off.
I'm going back. I'm gonna pick the Fidrich the Bird as my favorite.
Yeah, I was like, I'm about to pick a new favorite player. Thanks a lot.
Forget you.
Thanks for nothing. I paid $30 for it too, man. So, anyways, I kind of carried this little bit of a grudge against Lou for probably about 4 or 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at one point or another, I was talking to CT Bartlett, who was the guy who basically like showed me all about the baseball analytics thing, the thing I'm all obsessed with now.
Right.
And so I was telling CT about it, and there was another guy there. His nickname is Dr. David Lee Motley was there with us too. He's a very, very good friend of mine as well. And so so the two of them were there. And when I told that story that I just told you and the listeners here, I told him that story about Lou Whitaker. I'm like, because his name got mentioned. I go, yeah, he's a jerk, And they were like, why? What do you mean? I was telling the story, and they started laughing, and they were like kind of like laughing like they knew something I didn't. I said, what do you know? What's so funny about that? And they go, they're like Lou Whitaker is a Jehovah's Witness. He can't recognize birthdays and such. And I was like,
very nice. Well, there you go.
I was like, man, he could have made an exception. But no, I was like, I get it. I'm not going to make him break his religious vows, but so I forgave Lou, and me and him are good now, even though he has no idea who I am.
Right.
We're fine now.
Okay.
That's my autograph story.
Forgiven, forgotten.
Yeah.
I did not know.
The two of us moved on with our friendship. That he knows no idea who I am.
Yeah.
And we moved on, but we're good now.
Lou, can I get a witness? All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you are.
So if you try to get Lou's autograph, I would just say stick to having him sign your sheet.
Yeah,
not try to request anything from him.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
You might have said to my best buddy.
Maybe, yeah. That's
he might have gone best buddy, dearest pal.
The greatest guy I know.
Yeah.
Charles. Yeah. Well, he could have put that instead of happy birthday.
Yeah, but the happy birthday was
yeah, but he could have put that instead of the happy birthday. He said he just was like best wishes. I'm like, come on, Lou. Thanks a lot. But anyways, so that's we got a couple little stories
I
there.
didn't upload the crap in here.
The stuff I sent
I saved it to the computer, but I didn't upload it. So
I can start get it talking about it while you
upload
this
Bill,
stuff.
Bill, what's his last name?
So we're Bill Bonthron. That's our player today. And so I have sort of like an admission.
We really segued on that.
Well,
Bill Bonthron. No, that's fun.
Show,
when you're on the Death Star, man, you got to soak it in.
I'm loving the Death Star, dude. We have to. I want to make this a more regular thing.
Then the background on the StreamYard on the
it's
background,
awesome. It's got the
underlay
blue swoosh.
Yeah.
That's like one of that makes the whole window. It's freaking sweet, man.
It's
Like
So
it's just like my dream setup, dude. I'm like on the Death Star.
It only took me 100 episodes. I finally
It's
staged and lit the
it's
thing.
friggin' sweet, dude.
Our studio is pretty darn sweet.
The studio is fantastic, but this
It's,
this takes it up to an 11.
Well, and that's
takes it up that
that's
extra.
why I wanted to do it. Because some people are asking, oh, do you have? Because you see podcasts and they're like really, lit like this and whatever, and it's like I care more about the content because what we've been doing has just been I've just been floored by the story. It's just
true,
enamored with the story, and I'm like
but we can turn the backdrop up to an 11 and do a sweet story.
And so I wanted to turn it up to 11 a little bit.
It is an 11.
This story deserves it.
Yeah,
and I apologize for sleeping at the wheel.
No, you had nothing to apologize for. You're on a great show, man.
Till now, it's the only thing better than this was the Christmas tree in Portsmouth.
Yeah, that's still to this day is my favorite show. That's still my favorite show. I was actually thinking about it today.
That was good.
It's my favorite show we ever did.
It sounded good. They're fun people.
I really want to go back down there again this year and do another show. I want that to be like an annual thing. I would love to go down there and talk. I love those guys too.
Yeah, it's
a great group. I love those guys. I still text and talk to them like every few days. So I mean, they're like friends, family to me, man. I love these guys. So. So right. I'm looking forward to going down and seeing him again.
But Bill Burr, we were talking about
Bill Bonthron. I got you. Don't worry about it.
I'm teasing. I did that on purpose.
Oh,
but Bill Bonthron.
Yes. So I have sort of an admission to make about Bill Bonthron. Is when I wrote this book, I again
information was limited.
True.
How many years ago was that?
It was exactly. It was 2013.
We're recording this in mid part.
The main article I want to talk about today was 2015. Yeah. So this
11 years ago.
Yeah. So
a lot of stuff has happened,
and a lot of stuff has been dumped onto the internet, and it's allowed me to process this story in a different way.
But you know what? Here's the interesting thing. No one else has challenged you because there's a lot of books about like Michigan or Longhorn football, right? There's books about those sports teams, right?
Yeah.
And there's more than one book about those sports teams or the Fab Five or the Bad Boy Pistons. There's a handful of books on each. No one has yet to challenge you on the City of Champions.
Yeah,
and the story.
Well, there's the City of Champions that the guy did. He did a book after mine. But I haven't even read it yet. But
death and killing in the
I know
City of
it talks about the black.
we
talked about that one guy
that's not
trying to heckle us a little bit at the speech or whatever. But he wasn't trying to mount a legit challenge. He was trying to be like, "Oh, was Mickey Cochran a racist?" And so I'm like, "Dude, I'm not."
That's not what we're here for.
Yeah. So
but that's not what we're here
for.
I
don't. But that's the thing about it is what's the evidence to it? But that's where that other book comes in, and that's the stuff that he was trying to get into. I'm like, I don't know why, but
yeah.
Anyways, as far as the factual content, I mean, that was the entire goal, is to lay the foundation and allow other people to come along and pursue different avenues. Different directions of the story. But
somebody could challenge you and write something new because there is a lot of information that's come to light.
Yeah, but
now and
then. What they would be doing, the thing about it is the baseline facts that I put in there
would regurgitate you a lot.
Well, what I'm saying though is like if somebody came along right now and wrote a story about Bill Bonthron, it would most likely be better than the one I wrote about him in my book.
Sure.
Okay. But it doesn't effectuate the change from the facts that I laid down in my book.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They just have a bigger and better story, more depth or whatever.
Yeah. And so today we get to find out more about Bill than is in the book. That's what I love about the podcast, is because we get to go, like we did the whole I keep going back to Willis Ward and Eddie Tolan.
Well, this is going to be a story similar as far as it took us into the whole
that we didn't even know.
This is a fascinating story. This is a fascinating story. And this is a story that this is an example of a story that I really would love if somebody actually got interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
You could write your own book on this. You could write your own section on this. This could very easily be, like we've talked about the movie. I got a screenplay for the movie. This could very easily be at least one episode of a story or some kind of an hour and a half long, 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic story. And I had no idea really until today when I was was working on the, update my knowledge of the subject. And I was looking at my story in it, and really it's like, okay, Bill Bonthron won the 1500, he set the world record for the 1500 meter, 1500 meter track, race. In 1934, in June of 1934, and he held that record until 1936.
Yeah.
So in 1935, he was the world record holder for the 1500 meter. That's where, and I have a couple of articles that talk about it in the book, and that's it. And that's where I leave it. Right. And I'm like, and so like the entire time, and Bill Bonthron is on the cover. He's one of the champions on the City of Champions newspaper. So he's got a nice picture on there. And he's got a big shot. He's right in the dead center. He's a main figure in the newspaper. And I've always wondered, because it says him under there, the 1,500 meter world record holder. And I'm like looking at it going, I'm not really into track or anything. And I'm like, who cares? I'm not saying who cares, but I'm like, I just kind of looked at him as like sort of a lesser star.
He's on this one,
right?
Here?
Yeah, he's right in the. I'm sorry, he's in the sort of the right center.
Okay,
right next to I'm drawing a blank. Right next to the where's he at? Clark Haskins. He's sitting right now. He's standing right now. He's racing. He's running. Where's he at? Hold on, I'm looking at the wrong section.
Is this because there's?
I'm sorry. He's in the far left. He's right next to the Tigers.
Oh,
look at the size of that picture. I was looking at the wrong. I was looking
at
Dick Degener. I thought that was him.
All right.
I'm looking at a little thumbnail.
Yeah.
He's on the far left by the Tigers, and look at how big his picture is.
Yeah.
He's as big. He's bigger than Gar Wood.
Right.
The only person as tall as him in the photo is Joe Louis.
Right.
He's a massive presence on that newspaper.
Yeah. So if
I never knew who he was.
If you're watching the video, you can see that audio podcast. Yeah. So we have up the traditional. He's Free Press 2-page spread.
If you were to lay it sideways, Bill Bonthron's picture is half the size of the Detroit Tigers.
Yep.
He's got a massive picture on this
one
newspaper.
Dude compared to the.
It's one of the biggest photos on the newspaper. Like, look at all those other stars.
Give him a lot of column inches there.
They got him a huge section in that.
That's pretty cool.
And so the question I've sort of had was, he's bigger than Walter Hagen on that. Twice the size his picture is.
Yeah.
So I've always, and that's what, when I was writing the original books, I was like, I just didn't really have a ton of information on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, he won the 1,500 meter. Okay. Congratulations. We already talked about Willis Ward was a track star in 35, Michigan. Jesse Owens going to the Olympics in 36. Yeah. Why wasn't Bill Bonthron in the Olympics and this and that? So I'm like, he had the world record. It just, okay, great. I wrote about him. He's another number on it, one of the 33 championships. Now I'll move on to the next,
Yeah.
But the interesting element of, and it's really today that it sort of dawns on me of just how big of a name he was back in the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the way to really understand how big he was is to understand the context of the track world at the time. That's what's essential to understand why he's such an important figure in this City of Champions story, and in understanding like how big of a star he was. And so for number one, the 1,500 meter, like, as an American, when I think of a track race or whatever, when I think of a track race, and as someone that really doesn't follow any track and field, maybe once in a while at the Olympics or something, when I think of track, when I think of a race, I think of the mile, right? Like, as far as like if you're looking for like a distance race or a little bit,
it's a 100-yard dash,
and
then the mile,
right? And
quarter mile is kind of
a mile is a quick sprint or whatever. And then you got the marathon, of course, right? That's like the long distance version.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 1,500 meter, I'm like, well, what is that? And why would I really care? Right.
Yeah.
It's a 1,500 meter. But this is the thing to understand, is that one of the elements for like the rise of, and I don't know how big the 100 meter is, 1,500 meter is today.
Right.
But back in the early 1900s in the Olympics and all this, the 1,500 meter was everything. And the reason why it was so big was it was because it was the metric mile.
Oh, okay.
It's the metric mile. So what that means is the US uses miles. Everybody else, uses like kilometers and meters and all this different stuff, right?
There is a difference. In the distance in pacing yourself. And if you train on a mile and then you try to do the 1,500, it'll throw you off.
So a little bit about this.
Yeah. I ran 4 years of track.
Okay. So you do know about this
in high school.
And was 1,500 meters still a thing when you were doing it?
Yeah. We our track was in meters. So it depended
on
it was in
meters.
Our track, it depended on the school that you
went
to.
But was it like an emphasis as like one of like the big races of the track and field events?
The sprinters were the sexy ones.
I know, but so it wasn't, but among the sort of like medium distance, I think it's called, was that like the top tier?
Yeah.
Oh, so it still was. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing is that's why I didn't understand. I'm like, who cares about what's a 1500 meter? Like, okay,
Yeah.
but the 1500 meter, for those of you that don't know about it, the 1500 meter is the metric mile. And what's interesting about it is that because it's the metric mile, it's what connects track and field to the old world. Okay, so the U.S. we might have the mile, but over in Italy or France or UK or Greece or whatever. What's that?
I said, we are from France.
Well, yeah, they don't run the mile. That's not their signature event. So if you want to compete on the world stage, the 1500 meter is like the sort of, it's like the universal medium distance race. It's like the creme de la creme. It's like what everybody runs. So if you run the mile and you're going over to face there's like an amazing 1500, the metric meter rate runner, he may not necessarily be you're not necessarily going to face him because you don't run the same event. So you want to run the event that all the elites are running. And that's, if you want to, and that's what it was. It's like, so that's, once again, you're dealing with like contests between nations. And of course the Olympics is the ultimate stage that you want to get to in order to run that. And the 1500 meter was, one of these elite events. Yeah. And so that's number one. That's the first thing to understand is that the 1500 meter was at the time the event. That's like the event you wanted to be a star in, right? Mm-hmm. That you wanted to be good at. And so the second thing to understand about especially about the context is that the 1930s was like one of the most formative times for track and field ever. And I'll read this little quote here in a second, which is a phenomenal quote. It's from a guy in 1936 that, is well better placed than I am to talk about this, that, way closer to the games and stuff like this, or to the events. But the idea is that in this early to mid 1930s, there was this little group of guys, a couple Americans, an Italian, and a New Zealander. And these four guys were like the elites. They were all four were like just as good as each other, and they all had ridiculous credentials.
Tell me what images I should pull up.
Just I numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 through 3, 4, and well, any of the first three would be. So
I
got
fine. The 15, the one that's labeled.
That's his race. You can skip that one right now. We can skip that one right now.
All right, and then because you got
pick
Cunningham, Lovelock.
Yeah, and pick it. Go ahead, click on any of them.
Lovelock.
Yeah, so Lovelock. So Lovelock was the New Zealander.
All right.
So he's a New Zealander, okay, and we're gonna fill in a little more details about who they are and whatever. But these guys, so that's one of them. The other guy is he's the New Zealander.
Yeah.
Then you have Cunningham.
Can I make fun of his name for a little while first before
if you want?
All right,
go ahead.
No, because when we do the Man Cave Happy Hour, sometimes we'll play games when we're doing it, and we got a game called Porn Star or Coffee Flavor.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what would you rank him then?
Lovelock, Porn Star or Coffee Flavor?
Coffee Flavor.
Yeah. Lovelock sounds like is it a porn star name or a coffee flavor
porn
name?
Star,
Yeah. Lovelock.
Okay.
All right, sorry. His name sounds like a porn star. All right. But Lovelock, that could be a coffee flavor.
Hey, that was my first choice. But you shamed me and maybe forced me to choose the obvious one.
All right, but so Lovelock, he was from New Zealand, you said.
He was a New Zealander. In this great picture, it's just a Wikipedia picture, but he's got the New Zealand patch on. That was taken at the 1936 Olympics.
Okay, and then Cunningham.
So go ahead to Cunningham.
And
he's an American. He's a Kansas runner.
All right.
And he and Cunningham was like a legend of legends in this time. Like they were all, that's the thing. They were all equally good. They all had their own credentials. They were all dominant racers in their day. So there was they all beat each other. There was no like one guy who was more dominant than the others. So Lovelock and Cunningham, and then the next guy we're going to show, which is
Bacardi.
Yeah, it's I got
Baccali.
What is that? How you say?
Beccali.
Yeah, it was Baccali, Luigi Baccali, and so this is the other guy. And these are the three stars. And then the fourth guy, of course, is Bill Bonthron. There's four guys. Yeah. And all four of these guys are like, they're all, and that's what, so what,
he went to Princeton.
So what, but he was born in Detroit, and he grew up in Detroit, and he went to Detroit. I think it was, I'm going to read the article. I think it was Northwestern or whatever. I think it was Northwestern.
Right.
He went to Detroit High School and he starred. He was a distance runner, and he played football and baseball. And he went to Princeton because he was wanting to get into accounting. He was like he followed his father to went to Princeton, and he was a Detroiter, and so he goes out there, and while he's at Princeton, he wants to play football, but the coach's like, man, we see something in him about for track and field, and he brings him out to say, hey, you need to run distance for me. And the first couple of years, I'll read it a little bit of an article to get into him a little bit more, but he starts off as a cross country guy,
all right,
and he excels. He's like really good. And the coach is like, why don't we convert you
distance?
Why don't we convert you into a medium distance runner?
Country runner.
What? So why don't we turn you into a medium?
That's cool.
And so they did. They converted him into a medium distance, and it's like his third and fourth year, which was 1933 and 1934, which is when he's like, that's when like 33 and 34, and like going into 35 was this like golden era of track and field, and in this little 3-year window, this little 3 up through 1936, I would say about 1933, 32 to 36, this little 4-year gap is this golden era of track and field in which these guys are some of the most famous people in America. The events between these 4 racers, every time these guys meet up against each other, they had great press. The press was really interested in them.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of videos just getting ready for this. Nothing was too particularly great. It was just a couple of like little, it's a video of Bill Bonthron going, I am Bill Bonthron and I'm getting on a ship to go race somebody. Like it wasn't anything really of any, but you can find stuff on him. He's, there's him talking. He was a famous guy in his day. And so these races between these guys were major events. And what's very, very interesting is that none of the 4 were like really were heads and shoulders above the other 3.
Yeah.
And so like every race was like, who's going to win it? And the thing is that because they didn't race that often against each other, they were major events when they did. They were major events
because it was going to be a thing.
It was going to be a thing. It was because it was
happening.
Because they all knew because these guys were running for their colleges.
Right.
And Bill Bonthron, he's going to be an example. This is a guy who's similar to like Glenn Presnell, who's like after he gets out of college, or like Eddie Tolan, once he's done with his college career, in his mind, he's done. He's done. This is a college thing. He's got a new wife. He's got to provide for. He's not going to make any money training for the Olympics, or there's no professional track and field, at least not enough in his mind to make any money. He's got his accounting degree. He's about to join a prestigious firm that his dad's at. Yeah. There's no reason for him to do. That's why he didn't go. That's one of the main reasons he didn't go to the. I mean, he didn't. He actually tried to end up. We'll talk about that in a second. But the thing is that to the people of the time, they saw this little window and they knew it was a little window. They knew it wasn't something that was going to last forever.
Right.
Because these guys were all college athletes that were doing this. And they knew that so every one of the races in which they faced each other was a major event. You see? And so what I'm saying is the context is what's really to understand. And with that context in mind,
where was Luigi from?
So Luigi would come over from Italy. He would come over from Italy and do these different events with them.
But Lovelock, Cunningham, but Luigi, he seems like he would be like not an American dude.
No, he's an Italian. Yeah.
All right. So here, but Bonthron, Bill, right? Yeah. Sexy dude, right? If you're looking at if you're not watching the video, he's a handsome lad. Looks like Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah, look at. But that's what I'm saying. They're all like. I mean, they're all
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, you're Johnny on the spot with that.
Yeah, right.
He does.
If you're watching the video. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So yeah, they're if you want to you get the viewers to give them their ratings or whatever, like out of 9 out of 10 or whatever, you can put that in the comments.
He's a sexy lad.
So anyways, these guys. So this is the context to understand about, so going into this. And so just to kind of rifle through a little bit of like, these guys are all winning. There's like, for instance, when Bill Bonthron really started to break out as like a distance, as a track and field guy, coming from the cross country and started making his break, he was coming into a world in which Glenn Cunningham had not lost a 1,500 meter match race against anyone or any type of race in 2 years. So Jack Cunningham was like the college star.
Right.
And then the Luigi Bacali, he'd won a gold medal at the 1932 Olympics.
Right.
He'd won European championships and he'd won a gold medal at the European championships in Turin in 1934. Yeah. And then here's the other guy, Lovelock. His credentials is that he had won. So he'd won the British Empire Games in 1934 in London, a gold medal. So these guys all got massive credentials. And so that's what one of the things. So when Bill Bonthron enters the stage, his credentials were 0.
Yeah.
And so when he starts to beat these guys,
challenging him,
he starts to win. He beats Jack Cunningham.
Wait, what?
Yes, he beats Cunningham. He beats Lovelock.
Wasn't that the guy holding my starting blocks last year?
Exactly. And so that's how he breaks onto the scene. And of course, this guy came from a Detroit high school, and so Detroiters are like, that's our guy, and so these races, so like whenever you have somebody like initially like a Lovelock or like a Cunningham, that's like this, like, Cunningham was a superstar. Cunningham was viewed as like the best runner that there was. And then for Bonthron to beat him, and then now there's like the rematch, right? And so now that brings the extra interest, because who's going to win it now? That's what kind of hyped it all up, was that it was like, who's going to beat who, and who's going to, like, oh, this guy got beat last time. Is he going to beat him this time?
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say is to understand why he, his sort of like, that he isn't just some random guy on a page, that like this was a big name, and it was a big guy for Detroit to be able to claim as one of theirs. And so in his claim to a 1935 championship was, and that was the picture that you first had with that newspaper, was that he beat Glenn Cunningham in June of 1934 for the 1500 meter, and he set the world's record for that.
Oh.
And it wasn't broken until 1936. And then in 1935, he also had a record. He had a world record for the 1 mile too. And so in 35, he actually had the 1 mile record. But he also was the holder of the 1500 meter record. And so anyways, before I finish the story with these guys, I want to read this. This is a fantastic. So when there's a bunch of different articles. It was really tough because I want to like read this whole article on air, but it's just too long. So if anybody wants to read this article, there's a fantastic article the website is racingpast.ca. That's the website. And I texted you, Jamie, earlier, if you wanted to put a link in the comments or something.
We'll definitely put
okay,
a link
the article is written in 2015. So of course, right after I finished the book, because that book came out in 2014. I wish I would have had this knowledge for the book, because I would have had a lot more on Bill Bonthron, but it was written in 2015. And the author of the article is unfortunately not here. Let me see. It's right here. John Cobley, Cobley, how do you want to say it? Cobley, John Cobley. And it says Bill Bonthron profile. It's a fantastic, it's a long read. It takes you probably take you 15-20 minutes to read through the whole thing. So there's no way we're going to read all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff I got for just to fill in his biography there, what I was just talking about, comes from this article. It's a really good article.
All right, well, what's the highlights?
And what he mentions at the very tail end of his article is he gives credit, and this is where I texted you that picture with the book cover, The Conquerors of Time.
Yeah.
So he references this book, and he points at this as the source for a lot of his information.
Okay.
So this book is called, and so this is I have not read it. And if anybody reads
Lynn McConnell,
if anybody reads this book, we are letting you come on air and talk to us about it, because if you read it before I do, I actually am probably going to get a copy of this, because it's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
So the book is called Conquerors of Time, and it's by Lynn McConnell.
Okay.
And it's got Luigi right on the cover.
Hey, Luigi.
And following behind him is Lovelock. You can see his New Zealand stripe across his chest.
Yeah, okay, there he is.
So so the two of them are right on the cover racing. And that's why in a lot of these pictures you'll see are these guys in the same photo together, finishing first and second. In fact, we have a newspaper article, a photo here, and in the photo, it's a little bit of a magic eye that shows 4 images of Bonthron winning setting that all-time record in the 1500 meter.
Mm-hmm.
And Cunningham is the guy that they feature in. They're like, there's Cunningham. He's leading the race. Oh, here comes Bonthron coming up. Now Bonthron passes him. Like it's like a magic eye spread showing the different elements of the race. And just as an aside, one more little point about Bonthron and Cunningham, because that was really a big rivalry between those two guys. And the different styles, it's real. The interesting, it's kind of like Garwood, where the interesting thing about Garwood was not necessarily the races itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say the races are certainly like one of the most interesting parts. But there's other stuff too. It's the dynamics between the four of them. They're all trying to be number one, and they're all beating each other. That's an interesting component too. But what I'm saying is that like, it's kind of like, I never thought about this when it came to like track and field, I guess. I mean, I knew there was strategy.
Yeah.
But with this particular two guys, Cunningham and Bonthron, it was interesting to read this article and find out that Cunningham, his strength was that he was really good. He was really good to be able to start, and he had a really great like sort of endurance.
Mm-hmm.
But his final like kick, as they call it, at the end of the race was not like his best feature. It's not like he wasn't good at it, but where an opposite, Bill Bonthron was the complete opposite. So Bill Bonthron was like a decent stayer, and then his greatest attribute was his kick at the very end.
Well, that's where you need it.
And so like it is, but so that's what makes one of the interesting elements of the story was that the races that Bonthron lost to Cunningham was because it was like this chess match between the two of them about how they wanted to use their particular strength. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for instance, the most recent race that Bonthron had lost to Cunningham was because he did not use that kick at the right time. Like he didn't, and he knew he didn't. And so it was like a chess match between these guys as to how they would utilize their particular attribute that they knew that they were better than the other racer at. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't just like start off the block and they run it like, I'm going to run as fast as I can to get to the end and beat this guy. It wasn't that. They were, you're talking about like millimeters.
There's finesse.
There was like millimeters between these guys.
The difference between the mile and the 1500.
Yes.
You're pacing yourself, and there's a different pace because it ends in a slightly different distance, and you gotta run. It's different.
So
there's a difference.
One of the races that Bonthron lost against Lovelock, that same concept comes into play. You see what I'm saying? Like they can't. Like they're trying to figure out like their particular strengths. So that's what I'm saying. That is a regular feature. That's a regular feature of these races is how they're going to like utilize their particular gift.
Sure.
To finish the race. So it's just interesting. And so that's what I'm saying is that's why I think this would make an excellent like movie because you're able to feature that component. You know what I mean? You're able to like show that and go like, oh man, Bonthron, like, you shouldn't have let that kick go so early, and it's like if you start that kick too early, you're but that's what I'm saying is that's the kind of things that that was a major factor in all these races. They all, and in fact, this was going to say the race between Lovelock and Bonthron, the previous, it was like the race he lost a race against Lovelock. In the race he lost, they both, whatever race it was, I don't know if it was a 1500 meter. I have to go back and look at it, but whatever race it was like the 1500 or 800 or something like that. But anyways, they both set the world record. They both set the world record, but Lovelock won the race by like a half second or something. And so they both set the world record at that moment. You know what I mean? Like that's how crazy the story is with these guys is it's like literally going back and forth. And then the one guy wins, but they both set the world record. It's like, it's that intense. Like it's crazy. So anyways,
so what's that excerpt? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is I love this excerpt because this is, I got this out of the book because you can actually look on,
is this out of Lynn's book here?
It is. And so this is, you can actually buy it off of, you can get it on your Kindle or whatever. You can get it like the iBooks, Apple Books or whatever it is.
McConnell, MCCO.
Yeah. So anyways,
NNEL.
So what I want to read is,
Conquerors of Time.
Yeah. So I want to read, so first of all, I'm just going to read. I mean, I just was looking at the sample pages.
Yeah.
But so what's interesting is, so I'm just going to read. This is a quote from that she cites in her. It says it's just a sample. What is it? I don't see what page 8. This is page 8 of the book. It's part of the introduction.
Sure.
And so so this quote comes from October 5th, 1936, and it's by E.A. Montague from the Manchester Guardian, which is a British newspaper. And so it's just part of the introduction, and the header of the article says the end of the golden age. And so it begins, up to 1932, the world had seen two consummate milers, W.G. George running in peerless splendor in the 80s, and Nurmi, Since 1932, there have been 4. So saying prior to 1932, there'd only been 2 like star racers in the world, really. So up to 1932, the world had seen 2 consummate milers, W.G. George and Nurmi. Since 1932, there have been 4. Lovelock of New Zealand, Bacali of Italy, Cunningham, and Bonthron of the United States. They have made the last 4 years a golden age of miling. Races were arranged between them to which half the world listened. They became household words among many thousands of people who took no other interest in athletics. They demonstrated with supreme skill the art of running the most scientific of all races. Incidentally, between them, they made 5 new world records for the mile in the 1,500 meters, which is the continental and Olympic equivalent of the mile. The art of these men, ever inciting each other to greater heights of achievement, reached its most complete and thrilling expression in the Olympic 1,500 meters at Berlin. It seemed then, as it seems now, to at least one spectator that in that race he saw for the first time running that was perfect in all its elements: grace, skill, speed, judgment, and courage. It was a supreme exposition by the 3 supreme performers, Lovelock, Cunningham, and Bacali, who were first, second, and third. It was their greatest triumph, and as one can see now, it was their last. Like it all culminated with the Olympics. And Bonthron didn't make it. He missed the cut. He actually, like, after 34, he graduated from Princeton.
Right.
And athletics in this became second fiddle. And there was actually an example that this guy cites in his article that I was just mentioning, that he lost a race because he'd just gotten married. He was out golfing. He was out trying to get this, like, get ready for it to be, embark on his married life. So even in his final year, when he still won that record, everybody was like, what are you doing? You're one of the great elite racers of your time. And he was already his interest was already leaving towards another direction. But in 35, he, like I say, he set another record for the mile. He said, I think it might have been the 800. I got it written down. Let me take a look. I hate to do a come back and apologize because I got the wrong info. But yeah, so he basically, like, he wasn't focusing. He wasn't focusing. So, and he wasn't even, they were like, are you going to at least try out for the Olympics in Berlin? And he was like, he was like,
I gotta check with my wife. Hang on.
Yeah, that's how he was. He was like, but I'm just saying he basically lost interest in doing it. And I don't even have it here. He said it. I think I already said it. Hold on one second. So in 1935, he did have some success, but when he actually tried out for the Olympics, he missed the cut. He was 4th on the list.
So
and you had to be top 3.
But he was like so for the 35, the City of Champions, he's listed on there
as the world record 1,500 meter holder.
All right. So he held the world record for the 1,500
That was what
meter.
they claimed him as. Okay. Yeah. And so anyways, that's what's kind of interesting about this story is, and it's a shame that he didn't go to the Olympics because the other 3 guys did, and they finished in that 15. So just think about this.
That would have been another highlight.
Let's I guess you could say, like, let's put this all together then, after having talked about this, right? So you've got, I'm just looking at this real quick. I'm loading it up right here.
Yeah. So Lovelock, Cunningham, and Bacali are all there doing their thing. One man missing. Bill didn't get to go.
Yeah, it was the mile. So anyways, he set another record in the mile. So anyways, so let's put this all together now, okay?
All right.
You've got these guys, okay? You've got these guys who are beating each other all back and forth in this 1,500 meter. They're like, I just read off their statistics. Bacali had a gold medal in the 32 Olympics. They all had credentials. Cunningham was the most invincible racer for 2 years until Bonthron came along and beat him, and then we won the 1,500. Won the record. These guys are beating each other back and forth.
Yep.
And so they all emerge. They except for Bonthron, these guys end up in the Olympics with each other in Berlin. This is the Berlin Olympics, like one of the most legendary Olympics of all time. And these guys are all on the blocks together at the same time. Look at the sort of evolution towards that moment, and then they finish 1, 2, and 3, and it was
nice.
And it was Lovelock who won gold. and then it was Cunningham who won silver, and Bacali won bronze.
Right.
And so they finished 1, 2, and 3. And that picture right there is from Lovelock winning that race. You can see Cunningham I think it's Cunningham in the background. Is that what the
Lovelock image?
Yeah.
All
right. So in the background is that's Cunningham behind him.
Yeah.
Finishing that, and it's Lovelock winning that Olympics. He wins that's the race. He wins the gold. Yeah. So anyways, so it's just this, that's what I'm saying. It's like this era of this golden moment in track and field,
right?
That all this stuff is happening. And also keep in mind that this is the same moment that you've got, Eddie Tolan is in that same era.
Yeah.
Willis Ward is in the same moment. And then you've got Jesse Owens in the 36 Olympics going crazy, winning all these different races. So this little moment,
people sitting in the USA,
yes.
USA.
And so when we're talking, a lot of times when you're talking about the Olympics in 36, your immediate thought is Jesse Owens. That's it.
Yeah,
Jesse Owens is the big story, right? Of course he is. And it's not to take anything away from that.
But there was some good stuff going on around.
Yes, for people that were into track and field, this 4 or 5 year time was like the golden era. Yeah. These were there's stars across the country, across the world. This was and Bill Bonthron was dead center in the middle of this. You see what I'm saying? Detroit was dead center in the middle, with not only with Bill Bonthron, but with Willis Ward, with Eddie Tolan. Yeah. They were part of this track and field scene.
So I thought you said
the 30s.
He went to Northwestern, so he would have been in school with.
I have it right here. I have it.
Willis.
Let me make sure. I don't want to misquote that.
Then he and Willis were, if that's true, then. Yeah, if he was a Northwestern guy.
Just one more second.
Because I'm 99.99% sure Willis was.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about him. So,
guy.
It says, it says,
and then Princeton, the fancy pants school.
Bill grew up in Detroit. His childhood was this is a great little story about him too. His childhood was seriously affected by a tree climbing accident. One of his legs was severely burned when he fell on a 6,600 volt wire.
Woo.
They say my rubber-soled shoes helped, he told the Boston Post years later. My weight broke the contact with the wire and dropped me some 30 feet to the ground. 30 feet to the ground. They had to graft skin over my burns because electric burns do not heal by themselves.
Yeah.
He was scarred for life, but his leg regained its strength through therapeutic walking and running. Although he was more interested in playing football and baseball, this burn therapy introduced him to competitive running. At middle school, he ran 440, 880, and a mile and managed a 4th place in the Detroit School Championships.
Oh, wow.
Then at high school, he excelled at running with a 4:35 mile and a 2:05 in his graduation year. Where is his high school? I swear I saw that in there.
But it just said high school. Say which high school?
I swear I saw it on here, and I am not seeing it now. Maybe I saw it somewhere. Hold on a second. I think I got another clip from somewhere else. Why does it say Bonthron ran at Northern for 2 years before his wealthy parents sent him to the exclusive Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire to finish up. Where is?
Yeah.
No, that's. Hold on a second. Where is?
Just high school.
I'm looking for it.
I want to know if he's Cass Tech or if he's Northwestern.
I could have sworn I was looking at a bunch of stuff. But it says Northern.
Which of the? Yeah. Well. Yeah. Who knows what that means?
Where's Northern? Detroit Northern.
All right, Detroit Northern.
What is that?
That's probably different than Northwestern.
Yeah, it's not Northwestern, but he would have been in the same city. Was there some?
Yeah.
Detroit Northern. Bill. Yep. Northern. Detroit Northern.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Born in Detroit, Michigan, 1912.
Northern High School serves students from the northern part of Detroit, specifically the New Center area. In 1966, more than 2,000 students at Detroit's Northern High School, 98% of them African Americans, staged a walkout in protest of the quality of education they were getting. That was in 66. So Northern High School was in north of the New Center area.
Is there any way to tell if that school was torn down?
I don't know.
Because the reason I ask is
I'm sure it's not standing.
I wonder if what's that?
I'm sure it's not standing if it was in.
Well, because I'm wondering because that lady said that the City of Champions plaque her husband had removed from a high school while she was demolishing it.
Oh,
and so one of the weird thoughts I've had, I saw a book a long time ago, and it was about Northern. I thought it was like
no. It's on Woodward. Today, the school is known as the Detroit International Academy for Young Women.
Okay.
Mascot is a Pink Panther. Is that one right on Woodward with the panther up on the sign?
They have a Pink Panther as the mascot?
As the girls' school there.
It's an actual, like, it's not the Pink Panther like cartoon.
No,
it's like a Pink Panther.
Yeah, it's a panther, and it's pink because
awesome.
it's a girls' school.
No way.
Yeah.
What a great mascot, dude.
So yeah. So that's
awesome.
That's that Northern High School is that. Yeah. That's the space on Woodward.
Yeah. So and I'll just read to you real quick.
There's a picture.
I just want to read one more thing. This is like sort of the you know how you read the book jacket and it hypes up the book.
Yeah.
So this is the hype quote for the book, and this is written.
It opened back in 1916, and it's still open today.
Yeah, well, he was a brand new school when he went there then. So this is her little hype clip for the book itself, and I might get this. I'm telling you, this is an interesting story, and we just covered the very edge concept. This was a serious rivalry, and these guys all knew each other. They all had skill. I think this is going to be a good book, man. Whoever's, and you can get it on your you can just get it on your, you can probably find the hard copy, of course, but you can just order it on Kindle or whatever.
Yep.
But anyway, so here's like the little hype quote. It says, while the world suffered the Great Depression in the 30s, one aspect of society was booming. Track and field had become hugely popular, and milers above all. This meticulously researched book by New Zealand journalist Lynn McConnell charts the period between the Los Angeles Olympics in 1932 and the infamous Nazi Games of Berlin 4 years later. The main characters were New Zealander Jack Lovelock, although he was claimed by Great Britain as well. The son of immigrants, Lovelock was born in New Zealand, but following his studies at Oxford, he returned only once to the land of his birth, preferring to remain in England. The U.S. provided extrovert Glenn Cunningham, the eccentric Bill Bonthron, and the unlucky Gene Vanzicki. Then there was Italian Luigi Beccali, the 1932 Olympic 1,500-meter champion, two British runners, Jerry Corns and Sidney Wooderson, and Phil Edwards of Canada. Their rivalry took interest in athletics to new heights in the USA, as well as fascinating the rest of the world. The 4 years provided exciting racing, culminating in one of the great Olympic 1,500-meter finals won by Lovelock in a world record. Oh, that's right. Bonthron's 1,500-meter record was broken by Lovelock when he won the gold medal at the Olympics.
Right. But that was 36.
That was 36.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that's what it took. Like,
right.
That's why it's such an incredible story. Bonthron's record stood. He's a champion in 35. He's a world record holder. You know, just like Garwood didn't race in 1935 either, but he held the Harmsworth Trophy. Nobody's going to, I mean, he would have raced somebody if he could have beat him. And so nobody else took it. Is that our cue?
It is.
Screw you. I was in the middle of a sentence. But they built Bonthron's record was broken in the 36 Olympics. That's just a culminating of a great story.
That is.
And you can play. That's a good
quote
to play.
So like, subscribe, leave a comment.
Buddy.
It's under. It plays under. You just keep rolling.
No, that's fine.
All the podcast things and all the podcast places. Do it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you.
Button.
Thank you.
Hit the thumbs down for Jamie, though.
101.
Put a thumbs down in the comments for Jamie. Getting the hook. Dude, hold on a second. Hey, hold on. Wait, I got a story to tell. I got something else to say. Hold on. Jamie, give me the freaking hook.
We'll do it all again very, very soon. It
is
Detroit City of Champions, the podcast.